So, good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be on here today and to share with you all. But first, thank you, Mr. Thomas, for this call. And thank you for who you are and for you just bringing your years and years and years of expertise and experience to us so that we can get better. And thank you so much for this call because, like I always say, you are aiding in all of our journeys and us getting further and progressing in our business. So thank you so much for this call because I know it's definitely helped me, shaped me, just so much growth. So thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good morning. So we are focusing on this month of what we need to let go to go into 2023. So our first week was unforgiveness. So hopefully you guys have already started putting into action those steps of maybe there's some people that you need to forgive, or maybe there's one. And it could be from years ago, or it can be from just last week. Because, like what I've been saying, as that to be that total leader, we can't forget about our personal life. You know, we've heard that old story so many times before. The man or the woman has all the things and all the money, and then you look at their personal life, and it's like, ugh, kind of a mess. So they don't really have everything, right? If you're not at peace. And then we talked about bitterness last week. So hopefully that helps some of you to identify some bitterness, because not always, if we are holding unforgiveness or bitterness, it doesn't look the same. It doesn't always have to be the man or the woman that is that looks bitter or is walking around with a frown. It's in some of us too. Some of us happy people, we just hide it better. So that's why it's so important to point it out, because you're like, what, me? Like, I'm always joking, I'm always laughing. So that's why we're doing this, because I love how our company cares about the whole person, the whole mind, the whole soul, so that as you guys are building your teams and as you become closer with your teams, you become like family, and those conversations start, you can really have those meaningful conversations, like I've been saying, of how we got through some things, right? Because we are like a family here as you are working together and being a team. So this week, of what we need to let go to go into 2023, we're going to talk about negative thinking, our thoughts. Now, this is huge. And I know you guys have heard things like this before, but you know what? Repetition is the mother of all learning. And I just think sometimes that when we hear this, we are hearing it, but we're not really hearing it. And sometimes some things seem so simple that we're really not slowing down and really listening to how important and big these simple concept is. Maybe it's not simple to do, but it's a simple concept that we kind of just let it go to the wayside. Or maybe that's for somebody else, or maybe it's not as big of a deal. Just give me what I need to hear, because I need to get better at the business and I need to move further and all that. But negative thinking is huge, and it has such an effect on all of us. And I think we also fail to realize that, just like if you want to get in shape physically, we have to train. Or just like, we're taught we need to get on training for our business because we have to train, right? We need to train on words that work, changing our language, how we think, learning the HCM system, training, so we get better, right? How to peak, what to say, all that. But then I think sometimes we kind of forget that if we don't get this thinking thing right away, we have to train for our minds too. We got to train the way we think. And that also has to become part of our routine. So if you do have a morning routine, or you're in the middle of putting one together, that thinking, those thoughts, that has to be part of our training too. So if you're going to the gym or you're going on a run, and you're like, I got to train my body because I want to be healthy and I want to be able to move and be there for my kids, my grandkids, excuse me. Same thing with our minds. We need to train our minds. And I think this is becoming more and more deeper, more profound for me of, oh yeah, you know what? I need to enter this into my routine, is this training of the way we're thinking. So I'm I'm going to read you a couple things and show you a video. So training. Now as we're going into 2023, I want you to remember that this might not come easy at first, but if we start and we begin to do a training of paying attention to what we're thinking about and thinking these power thoughts on purpose, it's going to make a huge difference. And, and there's things that could be pointed out in you where you can see, I'm really negative towards this subject, or I'm really negative toward myself, or I'm really encouraging to other people, but when it comes to me and my potential, wow, I wouldn't say those things to other people, but I sure am doing that with me. And that affects how we do the business. That affects how we talk to people. That affects our progress. So I went through a workbook a while ago, and it's just one of the questions is like, why are our thoughts important? And like I said, the concept is simple. So don't be fooled by a simple concept, but this is deep and important. So why are our thoughts important? And then I put, what I think I am, I become that. And we have heard this many times in Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinketh, mankind, so it's man or woman, as a man thinketh, so is he. Simple concept, but so profound. So I put, what I think I am, I become that. So ask yourself, what do you think of yourself? What do you think of your potential? What do you think of your future, your abilities? You, what do you really think? Not just, oh yeah, I think I'm good. Well, no, really sit and take the time. What do you think of yourself? Like when you're about to do something for business, for ACN, you're about to talk to somebody. What are the thoughts that come up first? Are they powerful thoughts? Are they, I could do this? Or, you know what, I'm going to talk to this person, no problem. And, the result that you want, it's right there. It's positive. Also, how do our actions relate to our thoughts? And I put, whatever my mind is set on, I will act like and be. So whatever my mind is set on, I will act like and be. So before we talk to somebody, what is our mind set on? Are we hoping that person will give us a good response? We're thinking of them. Are we hoping it goes okay? So whatever my mind is set on, I will act like and be. So you see how a routine of on purpose thinking is so important, because whatever my mind is set on, I will act like and be. So think of a way of how you can train yourself each morning along with your other routine of start working on those thoughts. So if you're driving to work in the morning, whatever you do in the mornings and your thoughts are just going and you kind of let them just go wherever, maybe you're in a habit of worrying about things. You're thinking about it, but you're just worrying about it, or you're in a habit of stressing. Pay attention to that. Wow, I'm really in a habit of stressing and worrying. Let's think of a power thought, how this is speaking life into what you want to happen. And then last question was, how will our lives be changed if we renew our minds? And it said, according to God's word. And I put, for renewing our minds. So you've heard this so many times. We've heard Mr. Provenzano, other leaders, when we go to events where they're saying, read 10 pages of a book a day as part of your routine, or spend 30 minutes in personal growth. That's renewing your mind. Some people read the Bible, then they do their personal growth. Some people don't read the Bible and they're doing personal growth, but that's renewing your mind. So we have to renew it each day. So that's what I'm talking about. So hopefully in 2023, if you're not doing this already, but that you are going to start, remember, it doesn't come just right away. One day you're perfect at it, but you're working on it. Like you're still battling maybe those negative thoughts, but now you're doing something different in your morning routine. You are actively saying out loud these intentional things, intentional good things, speaking life into your day. You're going to start doing that. And over time, like we learn in this business, being consistent, that's the whole magic, right? When we see somebody, wow, look at all the progress they have in their business, and look at all these customers, and look at all these IBOs, and look at all this momentum. That magic was from consistency, right? Just like working out. Wow, look at they look great. Look at all the weight they lost. Look at this. Consistency. Same thing with our minds. Let's start with right up here. So important. So I put, I will be transformed. I will want God's plan for my life. I will have new ideas, new attitudes, and I will know God's will for my life. And that's from just renewing our mind. That's from reading 10 pages of a good book that Mr. Provenzano tells us, or spending 30 minutes in that good book. We got to renew our mind. And then there was something in this book that I was reading. It was from The Slight Edge, and it says, it's all in our heads. And it says, can you imagine if you'd been afraid of failure as a baby? And then you kind of think, shoot, I knew I wasn't cut out for this whole walking thing. What was I thinking? I was crazy to even try. And we think of that and we go, yeah, that would be weird. That's funny if we saw a baby like talking like that. But that baby is a human being like us. We were once babies. So if we're looking at that baby, or maybe it's a niece, a nephew, your own daughter, your own son, and we picture them saying that, we would run to that baby right away and be like, what are you talking about? No, 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 no. You got to keep going. Don't talk like that. Don't think like that. So I need you to take that same passion that you would for somebody else and say, don't talk like that. Don't think like that. And do that for you. Now starting going into 2023, hey, don't talk like that. Don't think like that. As soon as the thought comes, well, I don't know if I can do it. Hey, don't think like that. Don't talk like that. Well, I don't know if they won't listen to me. Hey, don't think like that. Don't talk like that. I don't know if I can present. They won't listen to me. It's not like Mr. Thomas when he presents. Hey, don't think like that. Don't talk like that. And on it goes. Let's try that in 2023. It says, people who are successful know that falling down is the way you learn to fly. And it says, Tanya Gruber doesn't believe failure even exists. I'm going to go back to that because sometimes we glaze over that. People who are successful know that falling down is the way you learn to fly. Get it through your heads. And I'm saying it to me too, because I was not brought up with failure is okay. And a lot of us didn't, right? We just don't want to fail. Get it through your heads that to be successful, know that falling down is the way you learn. Can we just change that in 2023? Falling down is the way we learn. So big deal if we fail. Change your mind. Falling down is the way we learn. So if you mess something up, falling down is the way we learn. Okay? It's over. No more beating yourself up. No more, oh, I should have, and going over and over and over it in your head again. Falling down is the way we learn. That's it. Failure doesn't exist. It says, I've failed classes in college, but when I go back to take those classes again, I already know the material and have gained a deeper understanding of it. I don't think there is such thing as failure because you always have a second chance. See that thinking? You always have a second chance instead of going over and over again. Oh my God, I failed those classes. Everyone else is passing. They can take the class the first time and they can pass it. Hey, I'm speaking from experience here. Someone was very good at school. That's what I was thinking. Oh my gosh, why can't I just take a class and just pass it? Everyone just goes and here I go again. I'm taking it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, so you always have a second chance. And it's so true. You do know the material better. When you learn to ride a bike, you have to fall off a couple times. When you fall down, you get back up. There's an expression, you have to go through something to get somewhere. See, these are simple things for us to understand, but for some reason, we kind of we hear it and go, eh. But this is real. When we see someone have big accomplishments, maybe it's an ACN or maybe it's somebody, famous, they were thinking like this. And we go, wow, look at them. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how they even did this. It just seems so unattainable. They must be some different type of person. No, they were thinking like this. This is one of my biggest aha moments of being trained with our coaches in ACN and seeing people in big success here. It's like, they're just like us. The only difference is they didn't quit and they have a strong mindset and they kept going. All of us on this call are no different. I really need you to get that in your head. And I know that Mr. Thomas and all the coaches that come on here and talk, the whole point of this call is so that you know you can do this too, and that you're no different. They just hung on, they didn't quit, they stayed consistent, and they practiced this in their mind. If they weren't already strong in their mind, they started doing this, okay? So if you talk to anyone who has a high position or anyone you look up to, nobody gave them everything so they can be where they are. Nobody's giving out jobs, nobody's giving out grades, nobody's giving out anything. You've got to work for it. And when work is involved, there's also competition and failure. But that's okay, because eventually you know what kinds of things you're suited for and what things you're not. You have to fail a couple of times, but you shouldn't look at it as failure. Let's say you apply for a scholarship, but you don't get it. Go back to the scholarship committee and ask them why you didn't get the scholarship. Did you need to improve the way you answered the questions? Was it your scores? Were your grades not high enough? You can ask for constructive feedback. It's about critically analyzing yourself. Now that takes some humbleness to do that, right? Not, why don't I get the scholarship with an attitude, but it's like, how can I get better? Humbling ourselves. Why didn't I get that? I'd really like to know so that next time I can be better. And then whether or not you want it to happen, you're going to fail at one time or another. Everyone does. Okay, I don't care how big their house is, how much more money they make than you, whatever you think is so great and how they're so much above you, everybody fails. Okay, everybody. If you go through life with the philosophy that failure is bad, which a lot of us did, you'll be too hard on yourself when things don't go as planned. How many of us have done that before? Okay, you'll be too hard on yourself when things don't go as planned. You'll never learn from your mistakes and you'll never grow as a person, because when we start, some of us, when we fail, we just sit in that place and we say how ridiculous, how dumb that was, that we didn't get it right and we should have this and we should have that. That's not growth. Everyone fails, right? So you may be so afraid of failure that you won't even try in the first place. So to put it in perspective, consider the following. And it has a list of people, which you guys, I'm going to read this again because you guys have already heard this, but I think we glaze over it because I need us to start thinking, hey, that could be me. So it says, a young African-American woman wanted to work in TV and become an evening news anchor for WJZ-TV in Baltimore, but she was taken off the air because the station didn't think she was fit for television. She didn't give up, though, and kept giving TV a try. Her name, you guys already know, Oprah Winfrey. Now I want you to think, hey, that could be me, and fill whatever it is. Bill Gates founded Microsoft and one of the richest men in the world, but his first business venture was a flop. Hey, that can be me. So we see the end part of their movie, right? We see them already successful. We don't get to see all the failure. We don't get to see all the, rejection. We just see the end. And then we think, how are we going to get there? But remember, you're not seeing the first part. You're not seeing sorry, you're not fit for television, Oprah. We're not in the room when they're saying that. And she's like, what? And we're not in the room with her when she's like, you know what? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. We're not in there seeing however long that took and all that journey. So don't forget that. Michael Jordan missed more than 9,000 shots in his career and lost almost 300 games. 26 times he missed the game-winning shot. Okay? Hey, Michael Jordan. Wow, wow, wow. All these things. These people are just like us, you guys. Just like us. So I want you to think, hey, this can be me. Okay, Thomas Edison, the inventor of the electric light bulb, tried out thousands of different versions of it. Every single one failed before he invented the right one. His comment, I have not failed, I've simply discovered 10,000 ways that don't work. Look at that mindset. 1,000 times? After a while, you're going to be like, I don't know if I'm getting this. 1,000 times is a long time, but he just kept going. Okay, you don't need a college degree or a doctor or anything to keep going in anything, you guys. We all have the ability to build endurance, whether it's physically or mentally in this. We just have to train and keep going. With a lot of us, we get knocked off the horse because it just takes too long. Can you imagine if you were certain and knew that you are going to be an SVP or you are going to make that money goal that you're after? It's just that you have to wait and keep going. That was it, but it was certain it's going to happen. But all you had to do is wait and keep going. sorry, that does not count me out, and that does not count you out. See, we're so used to like, oh, I gotta have this, and I gotta have that, and I gotta have this to be able to get this. No. Okay, so we've heard all those great stories of those people, but now I want you to change that mind of, hey, that could be me. I was here, and you know what? Picture telling your story. I talked to so many people, this many people. I did these presentations. I did this type of customer, and this is what happened, and that. But I kept going. This person said no, and this person laughed at me, and all those experiences. Picture yourself telling your story, but I kept going. And then I found that one. And then I kept going. How many times have we heard these stories, you guys? We have the most amazing events in ACN, and we just hear story after story. What's the point of those stories? You know what? My mind was so negative at one point. Guess what? Hopefully this frees someone today. When I'd hear those stories, they were not encouraging me. They were actually making me feel bad about myself, because why wasn't I there? Why wasn't I thinking the way they are? Why can't I just do what they're doing? We're in the same business, and just listening, going, oh, it's just a reminder that I'm still not there. Oh, it's just a reminder of how much taller the hill is. Oh, instead of being encouraged of like, oh, that could be me. I mean, that's horrible to watch that, something that's supposed to be encouraging you, and you're just going, look how long you're still here, you're still this position, and there goes another person up there, successful again. Mind. I was not training my mind to think in the ways that I'm telling you right now. So I'm going to show a quick video.
So, think about what's the holy grail between somebody taking action or not. It's one word: certainty. When somebody is absolutely certain, the common word is believe, right? But, you can believe at a general level, or you can believe with certain. When you're absolutely certain that if I do this, it's going to get that result, and that result's going to change my life, you'll do it. When you think it absolutely is not going to work, you're never going to do it. The middle no man's land of maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, that's the piece that kills people, right? So if it's a must for you, you got to make it work, right? In our case, right? That's an example. If it's not a must for you and you're not sure, you don't know what to do. So years ago, I'd look around and say, okay, how do people get themselves to follow through that haven't been following through? What's the difference? And I started interviewing hundreds of people, literally, and eventually thousands, because I had thousands of my events. So I'd ask the group to give me their feedback. And I came up with this model. It's like the holy grail of belief, or the holy grail of momentum. It's like the difference between what makes the rich get richer and the poor get poor, right? And the difference we all know is mindset, but like, how's that built? So this is what I did. I created stupid four little boxes, and I'll scribble it here for you. You think about the first thing that determines whether you can do something or not, and I put that in this first box at the top here on the left side, and it's potential. Like, what's the potential of a human being? Like, when you guys started, you proved something no one had done in history. You ran the 4-minute mile, right? For God only knows how many centuries, they're trying to run a 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister does it. How did he do it? Do you remember? You did it in this industry, right? You made $1 million in a day. No one had ever done that in history, right? After you did it, a bunch of other guys are doing it because it became possible. Roger Bannister didn't just go physically practice. He made a shift in his head. He practiced in his head because he could never achieve it physically, so he had to change in his head first so that the result became certain enough he believed it, and then his body got him through. After Roger Bannister ran that 4-minute mile, within 2 years, 37 people ran a 4-minute mile. Wow. When no one in history had ever done it. Now here's how it works. The potential for anybody getting your product is extraordinary. They can do what you've done as much, more or less. They can do whatever they want to do. The potential's there. The market's proven that. Whether or not they tap into that potential has a lot to do with what action they take, which is the question you came to me with, right? Like, God, they all have potential, but they're not taking action. And we all know that the action they take is going to determine the results they get. That's pretty obvious. So most people have a belief about what their real potential is no matter what you tell them. And that affects how much action they take. And of course that affects the result. And then ironically, that result reinforces their belief. And then that belief affects it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say a person has unlimited potential, we all agree. But they take little action, little results. Why? Because they have to start with a problem with their belief. They don't believe it's really going to happen for me. Maybe for Frank Kearns because he's got the cool hair and stuff, or maybe it's for you because you're so driven, but it's not me. Maybe Tony Robbins because he's a freak, got these big teeth. Whatever their thought process is, right? They got this thing, right? But what happens is, if you believe that there's very little potential, how much action are you going to take? Nothing, little. And when you take little potential with a little action, what kind of results do you get? Lousy little results. And when you get little results, what does that do to your belief? You go, see, I told you this was a waste of time, told you this wouldn't work. And then what happens? You tap even less potential. You take even less action. You get even worse results, and your belief gets even weaker. And this sucker feeds on itself until you are in the downward spiral.
It's poisonous.
It's poisonous and it's self-fulfilling. Now, what if something could happen that could come along and fill you with a sense of absolute certainty? Not like I believe, but mean where you know. In you guys' case, mine as well, we knew because we had to. Because we burned the boats. There was no other option. We had to find a way. We weren't going to live that way. We all did it in different ways and for different reasons, but in essence, that was it. If you get yourself in a state of certainty that this is going to work, I'm going to find the way, and if this doesn't work, I will make the way, then you tap a lot more potential. And when you're certain in your potential, you take massive action. When you take massive action, you really believe in something, you get great results. When you get great results, your brain goes, see, I told you I was a stud. I told you this thing would work out. Now you're even stronger. You tap more potential, take greater action, greater results. That's how you went from $300 in a week to $2,500 in 5 days to $100,000 in a month to $1 million in a day. Same thing with you. And we get momentum. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Now some people go out and they go, well, I'm going to take a bunch of action. All right, I'm going to open this product. I'm going to try it. And they'll say to you, I even did it. But it's like a salesman who goes and knocks on the door, and he knocks on 100 doors and says,
you don't want one of these, do you?
yeah, exactly right. You know? And even if he doesn't say it verbally, his face says it because he doesn't believe it's going to work. So his voice, his body, the execution is so weak. Maybe if he talks to 100 people, somebody's going to buy out of pity. They don't want his kids to starve, right? But he's not going to get the result. So the core difference in people is how do you produce certainty when the world isn't giving it to you? You go out and you try. In your case, you're 100,000 in debt, and nothing's working. How do you keep yourself going? The way you did it, the way I did it, the way you're doing it, we may not have done it consciously, is we didn't change our potential. That was there. And it wasn't even taking more action. Taking more action with a belief it's not going to work, it's not going to change anything. We got results in our head that made us feel certain as if it had already happened. True or false for you?
True.
Right? So give me an example so people know I'm not just making this crap up.
Well, I mean, just like when I had nothing, I already knew I was driving like Ferraris and Porsches and stuff because I always wanted those cars. I already knew I was going to have them. It was inevitable.
Right.
I inevitably, that was just my inevitable outcome.
But how did you do that? Did you have a ritual? Did you think about it regularly? Was it one time you thought about it, or was it something you had an obsession towards?
I had an obsession towards it. I mean, I used to work at a video store, which is the last job I ever had in my life.
Thank God.
And I used to go to work almost every day, and I used to bring 2 magazines with me to read on my breaks. Entrepreneur magazine, just to read about business and everything else, to read about what other people are doing, look for role models. And I used to carry an auto trader with me. And I used to look at Porsches that were for sale.
Yeah.
And people always used to ask me, what are you doing with that Auto Trader magazine? I'm like, well, I'm just picking out the Porsche that I'm going to buy.
Right.
Which
probably got you a lot of crap.
I did. People made fun of me.
Sure.
I actually had a boss at that job tell me, you really shouldn't do that to yourself, John, because it's very, very likely that is never going to happen. That it's very likely that you're never going to have that car.
Yeah.
That's the kind of belief he was trying to put in my head. And I was like, no, you don't realize that it's inevitable that I will drive here sometime in the near future with that car when I'm not working for you and drop movies off for you to put back on the shelf. And that actually happened. And it was one of the most fulfilling days of my entire life. And the great thing was when I pulled up in this car, I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
A car that most mid-20s.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Porsche 911 Turbo. It was a convertible and everything.
Sure.
Just a beautiful car. It was one I always dreamed of having. But, for a few years, I always circled the ads of which ones I was going to buy. Well, when I finally got it and I pulled up at the store, I had all these people, some people that were still working at this $7 an hour job were there years after I left. And I'll never forget this, even the boss and stuff, and the reaction of the people was like, wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Is that your dad's car? And all I said to them was, not exactly.
Good for
and
you.
I just smiled and just left. But it was, It's the weirdest thing, but I just knew it was going to happen.
But you knew it because
I
you
conditioned myself
you,
to
you did it
to
over and
know
over
it was-
again.
yeah.
When I was in high school, I was not a popular kid, but I was passionate and intense, and I'll never forget. Some people had given some particular girls gave me some crap, and a guy too. And I wrote in their journals or their, their annual yearbook at the end, I wrote, someday, I said, you treated me like hell. Someday I'll be rich and famous, and you'll be an effing truck driver. And you'll be sitting there, I'll be with with this beautiful woman of my life, rich, and you'll be watching me on television thinking, you wish you would have treated me better. I actually wrote this shit in people's annuals because I went to a 10-year high school reunion when the people showed me this stuff,
great.
right? But it's like, I burned the bridges, baby. I was like, this is how it's going to be. So I'll give you a perfect example of this. They did studies, many have been done at this element, where they want to say, how much does the mind affect performance? So take basketball. And I've worked with a lot of NBA players and turned them around, and one of the problems many of them have is they'll choke on the free throw line. Well, everybody knows in that case, if you normally shoot really well and now you're not, something's interfering, something's getting in front of your state, some uncertainty, right? Obviously. So they take a group and say, we're going to make them better. How do you make somebody better who has got this mental block? So they take a group of guys and they're going to do free throws, and they do one group where they just practice for 6 weeks. Totally intense practice, and I forget the number of free throws, but they got to do this many free throws every day. Take a second group, and they have them not practice at all. Obvious. And they take a third group and they don't let them touch a basketball. All they do is have them practice in their mind, but the key is it's not practice makes perfect, it's perfect practice makes perfect, as corny as that sounds. So these guys see themselves making the shot every single time, conditioning their mind and body that it's perfect every time. They're not interrupted by a reality that would screw with them. So at the end of 6 weeks, they tally it up, and now they give them a test to see who has the highest free throw percentage, success. What do you guess it's going to be? Well, the obvious person says, obviously, it's not the guys that didn't practice, but which one is it, the mind, or is it the ones that actually practice?
I'm assuming the mind.
Yeah, you would assume it because it's true.
Right.
You intuitively know the truth, that practicing's not enough. It's getting yourself so certain so many times that now when you go to do it, there's no hesitancy, and you execute. It's having that absolute certainty that makes you tap your full potential, take massive action, get massive results, be reinforced having stronger belief. This is what makes somebody a star.
In that video, I didn't hear any type of criteria that we cannot do. We just have to start training our minds, taking the time to be mindful about what we are thinking. And also when we hear these stories, like that guy told a story about the video store and what he did, start picturing you instead of just sitting there watching and listening. Oh, that's so amazing for that person. Start thinking, you know what? That could be me. He's a regular person, just like me. He was working a regular job, just like me. Started with nothing, just like me. If I just start training my mind, starting today, and it doesn't matter how old or young you are. Like, I'm not young. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm not young. Some of these things I've started implementing and doing, like, how he was bringing his magazines to work and starting to see himself. Like, start doing that. That's not an immature thing to do. You're taking it seriously. You're taking the training seriously. You're seeing what Mr. Thomas did in his life. You're seeing that list of people, the Oprah Winfrey's, the Michael Jordan, the Thomas Edison. You're realizing those are all regular people like me that were born into the world like me, that do everything just like me as a human being. They just decided to believe. They just decided to start training their mind. They just decided to start thinking in this way. And so one of the things that I started taking seriously was start doing this, and I'm going to start thinking this way. Or, when they say the people, that the 5 people who hang around you become more like, and, start really protecting your space of the people, that you're on, because the people you spend time with will affect your beliefs, your values, and how you think, is what Tony Robbins was talking about, and how you act. And so I really started taking that seriously like a couple years ago, where I'm like, you know what? I'm only going to choose to hang out with these certain people. And if it's only this small little group because they're in a higher, financial bracket than me, because I want to be higher. And if there's not as much going on socially, that's okay, because I'm seeing the results of how they're thinking, what they're doing, and I want to be there. So Guys, I just want you to be very encouraged that all these people that we read about and study, they're regular people like us. Yes, they did extraordinary things, but just think, I can do that too. This could be me. Let's not get used to always looking up at the people on the stage and going, wow, wow, wow. But like start putting in the work, the intentional work of changing our thoughts and start thinking, this could be me. They had the hard times just like me. They had the no's just like me. They had the whatever, they didn't have as much money. They couldn't pay all their bills just like me, or they had to be whatever it was. Okay. Regular people start thinking this could be me and keep that the whole year. Don't just do this as like a new year thing. New Year's is coming, I'm going to do it for January. Start the lifestyle of thinking like that, power thoughts. So with that, I am finished. Merry Christmas, everyone. I will see you next Tuesday. Have an amazing Christmas with your families, and we'll see you next week.